The world watched in shock as news broke of Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi's sudden demise in a helicopter crash. The incident, shrouded in mystery and suspicion, sent shockwaves across the globe, particularly in the volatile Middle East. The helicopter, en route to a diplomatic meeting in Tehran, reportedly lost contact with air traffic control before crashing in a remote mountainous region. Details remain scarce, fueling speculation and anxiety in equal measure. The Iranian government, grappling with the sudden loss of its leader, promised a full investigation into the tragedy. The international community reacted with a mix of caution and concern. World leaders expressed condolences while urging restraint and a thorough investigation. The incident, occurring against a backdrop of already heightened tensions in the region, threatened to ignite a powder keg of geopolitical complexities. The United States, long wary of Iran's nuclear ambitions and regional influence, adopted a cautious stance, monitoring the situation closely. Israel, a staunch US ally and Iran's arch-nemesis, maintained a studied silence, its intelligence agencies working overtime to decipher the implications of the crash. The incident immediately raised questions about the future of Iran's political landscape and its implications for regional stability. President Raisi, a hardliner known for his uncompromising stance against the West, had been a polarizing figure on the world stage. His death created a power vacuum in Tehran, with potential successors vying for control, each with their own agendas and ambitions. The uncertainty surrounding the crash, coupled with the potential for internal power struggles in Iran, injected a dangerous element into an already volatile region. The crash served as a stark reminder of the fragility of peace in the Middle East, a region perpetually teetering on the brink of chaos. The incident also underscored the complex web of alliances and rivalries that define the geopolitical landscape of the region. As the world grappled with the implications of President Raisi's death, one question loomed large. Would this tragedy escalate into a wider conflict, dragging the region and potentially the world into another devastating war? The Middle East, a region accustomed to turmoil, found itself at a crossroads. The death of Iran's president, shrouded in uncertainty, had the potential to unravel the fragile peace that held the region together. The Arab world, long wary of Iran's growing influence, watched with bated breath their own internal divisions and power struggles, adding another layer of complexity to the unfolding crisis. The Gulf states, led by Saudi Arabia, found themselves in a particularly precarious position, caught between their alliance with the US and their long-standing rivalry with Iran. The incident had the potential to reignite long-dormant conflicts and inflame existing tensions. The Syrian civil war, with its complex web of international actors and regional proxies, could easily escalate, drawing in Iran's allies and enemies alike. The ongoing conflict in Yemen, where Saudi Arabia and Iran backed opposing sides, also threatened to spiral out of control. The fragile peace agreement between Israel and Hamas, already strained by sporadic violence, could easily collapse under the weight of renewed hostilities. Adding to the uncertainty was the unpredictable nature of the actors involved. Iran, under President Raisi, had adopted an increasingly assertive foreign policy, challenging the US and its allies in the region. The death of Raisi, however, did not necessarily guarantee a more moderate successor. The potential for a power struggle within Iran, with hardline elements vying for control, remained a serious concern. A more assertive Iran, fueled by a desire for revenge or a need to consolidate power, could easily trigger a regional conflagration. The international community, recognizing the gravity of the situation, called for calm and restraint. The United Nations Security Council convened an emergency meeting to discuss the crisis, but any meaningful action seemed unlikely given the deep divisions among its permanent members. The European Union, eager to salvage the Iran nuclear deal, urged all parties to avoid any actions that could further escalate tensions. However, their pleas for diplomacy seemed to fall on deaf ears as the region braced for the possibility of another devastating war. The United States, caught between its commitment to regional stability and its long-standing mistrust of Iran, found itself in a delicate balancing act. The Biden administration, already grappling with multiple foreign policy challenges, adopted a cautious approach, emphasizing diplomacy while simultaneously bolstering its military presence in the region. President Biden, in a televised address, expressed his condolences for the Iranian people while reiterating America's commitment to the security of its allies in the region. The Pentagon, however, was not taking any chances. The US Navy dispatched an aircraft carrier strike group to the Persian Gulf, a show of force intended to deter any potential Iranian aggression. The US Air Force also increased its surveillance flights over the region, gathering intelligence and monitoring Iranian military movements. The US Central Command, responsible for American military operations in the Middle East, was placed on high alert, ready to respond to any contingency. The US also engaged in a flurry of diplomatic activity, reaching out to its allies in the region and beyond. Secretary of State Antony Blinken spoke with his counterparts in Israel, Saudi Arabia, and other Gulf states, assuring them of America's unwavering support. The US also called on Russia and China, both with close ties to Iran, to use their influence to prevent further escalation. The Biden administration, wary of being drawn into another Middle Eastern conflict, emphasized the need for a diplomatic solution to the crisis. The US, while treading carefully, also recognized the need to prepare for all eventualities. The intelligence community ramped up its efforts to assess the situation in Iran, trying to determine the potential for internal power struggles and the likelihood of a more aggressive foreign policy under a new leadership. The US also worked closely with its allies in the region, sharing intelligence and coordinating military exercises to ensure a united front in case of Iranian aggression. The situation remained fluid, with the potential for miscalculation or unforeseen events threatening to ignite a wider conflict. Section 4. Jerusalem's silence. Israel watches and waits. Israel, Iran's arch-nemesis and a key US ally in the region, responded to the news with a calculated silence. The Israeli government, known for its hawkish stance towards Iran, refrained from making any official statements in the immediate aftermath of the crash. Behind the scenes, however, Israeli intelligence agencies went into overdrive, analyzing satellite imagery, intercepting communications, and activating their network of assets in the region to gather information and assess the situation. The Israeli Prime Minister, Naftali Bennett, known for his cautious approach, held a series of emergency meetings with his security cabinet and top military brass. The Israeli Defense Forces, or IDF, were placed on high alert, with troop movements along the border with Lebanon and Syria, both home to Iranian-backed militias, closely monitored. The Israeli Air Force, a formidable force in the region, increased its patrols over the eastern Mediterranean, prepared to respond to any potential threats emanating from Iran or its proxies. The Israeli public, accustomed to living with the threat of terrorism and war, reacted with a mixture of apprehension and stoicism. The memories of past conflicts with Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Gaza were still fresh in the minds of many. While there was no immediate panic, the uncertainty surrounding the situation in Iran and the potential for escalation weighed heavily on the national psyche. Israel, while maintaining a low profile, was actively preparing for all contingencies. The IDF reviewed its contingency plans for a potential conflict with Iran, including preemptive strikes against Iranian nuclear facilities. Israeli intelligence agencies stepped up their efforts to track the movements of Iranian warships and submarines in the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf. The Israeli government also engaged in discreet diplomatic efforts, sharing intelligence with its allies and urging them to exert pressure on Iran to prevent further escalation. Section 5. The blame game fingers point in the fog of uncertainty. As the dust settled from the initial shock, the blame game began. The circumstances surrounding the helicopter crash, shrouded in mystery and suspicion, fueled speculation and accusations. Iran, still reeling from the loss of its president, pointed fingers at its enemies, both foreign and domestic, hinting at sabotage and foul play. The Iranian government, eager to deflect attention from its internal problems and consolidate power, blamed the incident on a heinous act of terrorism orchestrated by unnamed external forces. Fingers were pointed at Israel, the United States, and Saudi Arabia, all with a history of animosity with Iran. Some Iranian officials, citing unsubstantiated evidence, claimed that the helicopter was shot down by a missile, suggesting Israeli or American involvement. Others accused Saudi Arabia of orchestrating the crash, alleging a conspiracy to destabilize Iran and weaken its regional influence. The lack of concrete evidence, however, did little to quell the speculation and accusations, further inflaming tensions in the region. The international community, while expressing condolences for the loss of life, remained skeptical of Iran's claims. The United States vehemently denied any involvement in the incident, calling the accusations baseless and irresponsible. Israel, maintaining its official silence, dismissed the allegations as propaganda and a desperate attempt by Iran to deflect blame. Saudi Arabia too denied any role in the crash, calling the accusations ludicrous and unfounded. The blame game, fueled by mistrust, historical grievances, and a lack of transparency, threatened to poison the atmosphere and make a peaceful resolution even more elusive. The accusations and counter-accusations, while lacking concrete evidence, served to reinforce existing prejudices and deepen the divisions in the region. The international community, caught in the crossfire of accusations, faced an uphill battle in its efforts to de-escalate the situation and prevent the crisis from spiraling out of control.